They just celebrated the 4th of July that we heard about when I first got to Seattle. The Norwegians light the firecrackers and throw them across the street. The Swedes pick them up, light them, and throw them back.
Turn them back. Yes, it's unfortunately that part of Seattle is so quickly disappearing that
Nobody eating Ludka fish up there no more.
no, everybody. I mean, you have a few people. The old timers. They're still around, but Ballard's all condos and fancy breweries now.
Oh, you
Could you
got a
imagine
fancy,
Sven if he walked into a place on Market Street in Ballard and was asked to pay $9 for a glass of beer?
but it was made by artisans.
I don't care what nationality they are.
And certainly,
Italians, Artesians, Africans, I don't care. $9 is not a good price for a little, mug of beer.
a wee little, not even a proper pint.
And then on top of it, you walk in there and they give you this thing called a beer flight. So I'm looking for an airplane because I worked for Boeing for 41 years. And it's these little cups of beer, one sip, and they put six of them on all six of them together don't add up to a pint.
And can you tell the difference between the six? Are they
I can't.
distinguished?
Can you?
Uh, I'm
I don't
sorry,
know.
I yawned. I don't drink anymore, Ben. So
Give
I had
me
I
a
had I had I had my share before it went to $9.
yeah. Give me a give me a good old Oli in a can anytime. Give me a Rainier, 6 for 99. That's what I'm looking for.
Apparently, the Cowboys in Montana call Coors Yellow Jackets because they're colored like that.
Yeah, that's not really a yellow though. That's kind of a
Kind of an off puce.
car interior brown, isn't it?
It's an off beige.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
it's
a
not.
not a full American beige, but a partial like Ecuadorian blaze.
And might I ask you, whatever happened to Pete Coors anyway?
He got into politics, and it was a rough and tumble game, and he decided to sell beer for a living.
So it was a lot easier to sell beer than politics.
Also, he got tired of squatting by that clear Crystal Creek and telling the stories about how it wasn't clear anymore, but it wasn't his fault, and he could prove it.
The day the tire came down the creek and hit him in the head, that was that was it for Pete. He
What
said,
did he get hit by? It was a beer truck. Was it one of ours? Yeah.
he says, "I'm the
Well,
last one going to the coast."
we're good.
What I always wonder about is how did Coors become such a huge beer in Southern California? Um,
Before that, it was Olympia. I remember when Olympia was the beer of choice among young drinkers.
when now we didn't have Coors in New York. I mean, you that was piss water. Nobody drank that unless you had a couple of cans left in your trunk when you took a trip out to California and came back. Otherwise, we
What did, what
drank
did it?
manly beers back in
What,
New York.
what did you drink?
Well, let's see. There was Schaefer. It was always Schaefer. Schaefer is the one beer to have when you're having more than one. And then there was the old reliable Rupert Knickerbocker, 6 for 99.
And Rupert was an honorable man, was he?
Well, he owned the Yankees for a long time, so I don't know how honorable he could have been.
Good point. In fact, we'll never get to the bottom of that one.
Yeah, no, that one's they. As a matter of fact, I remember the day that they knocked down the brewery and put up condos on the
Con-
site of the Rupert Knickerbocker Brewery on First Avenue in New York
He was on First Avenue, and what was the cross street?
in the '90s, I think.
Oh, uptown.
Yeah, First in '90 Yorkville somewhere.
Okay.
So he was he was
They
he,
turned that into a respectable neighborhood.
they brewed their vile swill right there in Manhattan, and there
Using
was a
using
couple
the
of
east
breweries in Manhattan.
special
Uh,
days they would use water from the East River, and then on regular days they use water from the East River.
on the special days, though, that's when you wanted to catch the beer because that was when it was especially. They had two kind. They had Rupert Knickerbocker, and then they had Rupert Knickerbocker Salty.
Salty.
And
I'm
then you
not going
had
to ask.
what else did you have? We
I know
drank.
you want me to, but I'm not going to ask.
No, you don't want to ask. Uh, they had Peels, Rangold. Rangold was my father drank Rangold, and that was his favorite beer. He didn't drink a lot of beer, but when he drank a beer, he had a Rangold. And then they had Schaefer, Rangold, Ballantyne. Ballantyne's Rangold sponsored the Mets, and Ballantyne sponsored the Yankees. So both of those. So they're really kind of depending on whose fan you were.
Who sponsored the Knicks?
Boy, I don't remember. It might have been Schaefer.
I saw
Might
an
have been
opening.
Schaefer if I remember right. Oh no, And then I remember this is the funny thing. This is what I could never figure out from when I was a kid. So you couldn't go to a drive-in movie and buy a beer.
They didn't sell them, or you just couldn't buy
They
one.
didn't sell
Okay.
them.
Yeah,
You
we
could
got
buy
beer.
them outside of the drive-in, but they sold Colt 45 malt liquor.
That's a bad start right there. I can taste that stuff right now. Wow.
A completely unique
Why do you?
experience. Colt 45 malt liquor.
If I wanted a malted, I would get a malted.
So I could never figure out because I mean I don't know, when I was a kid I got just as drunk on malt liquor as I did on beer.
I think it made you more angry. You like Cowboy Mad?
Yeah, it did that. Yeah, oh no, it was definitely had a psychological effect.
These fellas are as mad
45,
as
buddy.
cowboys. There's no cowboy for thousands of miles around here. What's wrong with them? They're just a bunch of New York kids drinking Colt 45.
You could only buy it in big bottles, them I forget quarts,
The full quart.
the full quart. Yeah, and you could leave milk in a milk bottle and you could leave soda in a soda bottle, but I never saw anybody leave any Colt 45 in a quart of beer. A quart bottle.
If you drink half of it and put it down, it transforms into something else.
Yeah, you just and you didn't want to find out what it was.
No.
It was nasty stuff. But in those days we drank nasty stuff. The nastier the better.
Did you drink Miller High Life and Budweiser?
Budweiser wasn't big in New York when I was a kid. Did I remember? Miller High Life was the champagne of bottled beers. So, of course, with that name, how could you not drink it? But I remember Miller High Life being...
You could be terribly disappointed if indeed you thought it was the champagne of bottled beers. That's what they said. That's what they said. They said that.
They said that, but I got to tell you, Mikey, I've consumed a lot of bottles of Miller High Life, and I've never found one that was analogous to champagne.
With that champagne feel to it. No, just not happening.
Nope. That stuff was vile from the get-go.
So Olympia went down the tubes. I guess they got bought out and they became a small brewery. And then it was replaced in California by Coors. And Coors was the beer of choice for all drinking teenagers until the market opened up and there was more choices. And in San Francisco, you might even try, if you're a kid and your first beer was Anchor Steam beer, you were never going to have another beer in your life. That was like drinking lunch. That was a meal in itself.
Yeah, see, we didn't have Anchors. I'm trying to think of any out of the big ones that was around, and really the only beer that I remember really making an impact was Heineken.
Oh yeah.
Heine's when I first started drinking Heineken's kind of became the cool thing to order in the bar.
Well, they were tasty.
I'll have a Heineken. And then another big one was Rolling Rock.
Oh yeah.
And them little green or them little Mickeys, them little
halflings.
Yeah. They used to serve those. Those were very popular in buds when I was 18. But 14-year-old drinking, you were drinking anything you could get.
I'll have
Whatever
a beer,
the guy
please.
was, the 6 for 99 was always your favorite display.
And the best part about that is you actually believe that the beer tasted different depending on the bottle. No, it's got to be long neck Buzz. Why? It's got to be.
Yep.
I won't drink anything else.
Yep. I had a lot of friends that would only drink beer out of a bottle.
Yeah.
And I think that had more to do with the fact that when you finished it, you could toss it and break it than anything else. The can didn't have the same coolness to it, like you drink that long neck bottle and then you toss it,
And the
in the top
idea
of the tub, and
cans give a taste to the beer that bottles don't. So that's another positive for bottles.
now if you work for Con Edison and you're a sheet metal or electric worker, you like that taste. You get it all day anyway, and where you're working.
It was the taste of life, the taste of a paycheck.
That really weird metal taste, that's in cans of beer.
Especially the last sip, which you should avoid, but you never do. Catches up to you, and I drank the last sip, and I didn't mean to.
Oh man, well, yeah. I mean, usually, many times when you're, under drinking age, your last sip is right in there with your first sip.
Oh yeah.
Now that you guys in California, you have a shotgun beer.
No.
So you never put used a can opener and opened a hole in the bottom of the can, put it up to your mouth, and then pull the zip tab, and then just.
I could never do that.
We used to call that shotgunning, man.
I'm sure there were some individuals who thought that was the best way to drink beer, but not me.
I think the most ridiculous beer drinking fallacy that I remember is, and I was introduced to this by this lovely girl she's passed away a long time ago now, but my dear friend and this lovely girl, Vicky, had me convinced, and it should have been my first sign that a woman will convince you of anything.
Anything you want.
Anything you want, that you got higher from a beer if you drank it through a straw.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
And listen, Vicky was such a beautiful person, and I believe, if Vicky said it, it had to be true.
I believe her now, even though I know it's complete balderdash, but I believe her.
Yep. Drink. You get. It was always cracked me up to see, the big bottle of beer, the quart bottle of whatever beer we were lucky enough to get that day because somebody walked in and got it for us, and then sitting there and drinking it like it's a soda pop through a straw.
Flavor straw.
Actually believing.
There once was a product that put the flavor in the straw. You could just drink straight milk, put the straw in it, and for 2 sucks on the straw, you had a weird, strange flavor. Then it was gone because you drank it, and all you had was a straw. There was no more flavor, and they were called flavor straws.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I remember those.
A product that could not sustain its name after 2 sucks on it.
Yeah, because as soon as the straw got wet, it kind of melted.
The flavor, whatever it was, disguised its flavor. It was in you now, but not in the straw, and there was no more to put in the straw, so that was it. Get another flavor straw.
See, we used to just down them without the milk, just open them up one end and suck it down, because I wasn't too sure if I was going to get my flavor out of the straw if the milk or whatever it was hit it.
You discussed all the different beers that sponsored sports in New York. My first memory of beer associated with baseball was at Seal Stadium, where there was a huge Hamm's glass above the first baseline. Didn't have anything to do with the park. It was the Hamm's Brewery across the street at 16th and Bryant, and there was a giant 20-foot beer glass that kept filling. It would get full, blink, Hamm's beer. Then it would fill again, Hamm's beer. And it gave something for the outfielders to watch because they were staring at it while they were watching the game. And if they were involved in it, many a beer was dramatically in their imagination consumed while the ball went over their left shoulder. But that was the deal. Now, after they tore down Seal Stadium, the Hams Brewery sign was there for a while. And the strange thing is, Hams beer was out of business. Hams went out of business. Lucky Lager went out of business. Uh, can't think of another. That are just gone. And for a while there, they were all owned by a company in Santa Rosa, and they bought the rights to Olympia. So they made Hams, Lucky Lager, Olympia, and everything out of the same brewery. They just put it in a different can and said, "You're going to love now. This is a beer,
Now that's
boy.
marketing.
This is a beer." Yeah, just make one beer and keep selling it in different names.
Or wasn't Hams the beer from Clear Blue Water or something like that?
Sky Blue Waters.
Sky,
Sky
yeah, Sky Blue
Blue
Water.
Waters. Hams the beer refreshing. Ham's the beer refreshing. And it was a bear that sang the song
Right.
while paddling in a canoe.
Hammy the Bear. Yeah, yeah. See, it was funny because the beers in New York were almost all, excuse me, owned by Germans. It was
No Dutch beer owners.
German beer. That was the business in New York. It was all Germans that owned it. I don't think there was an Italian beer or a Jewish beer or or any other kind of beer except Schaefer that was local to New York. Now, I think the biggest shakeup in the beer business came, oddly enough, in about 1970 when they came out with Gablinger's beer.
Gaplinger?
Gablinger's. And Gablinger's was a diet beer. It had
Doesn't sound like a diet beer. Sounds like
taste,
a big German
same taste,
sandwich.
less carbs. They were selling it as a diet as a diet beer. It was a precursor to Miller Lite and
Yeah.
all of those light beers that are out on the market now, but it was pretty much the first low calorie beer. And
What did you think of it?
it tasted like piss water. It tasted horrible. There was nothing. It tasted like you were drinking water.
Remember, Don King was promoting a fight in Vegas, and the sponsor was Corona Beer. And so it was party, 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 happy, happy, everybody shaking hands, going to be a great fight. Don King looks at somebody and says, "Get rid of this panther piss and bring me a real drink." On live mics to everybody that was there.
Oh man. Yeah,
That was your sponsor, Don. I don't need that sponsor. I'll
I
sponsor
don't
it
need that
myself.
sponsor. I get rid of him like I got rid of my man I went to jail for. Poof, you
Business.
gone.
Yeah.
I was puffing people before people was getting puffed.
And I invented hair. Look at mine.
Look at mine. I got better hair than anybody. Elvis don't have the hair I have. And Elvis was glad of it, actually.
Elvis didn't have black hair. The funny thing was, Elvis was like a light blonde, and he dyed his hair his whole life.
Yeah. Well, that's what killed him.
He didn't meet. It didn't meet his inner Elvis. He looked at himself and said, "That's not my hair. I need black hair," and so it was.
I wonder what star from the 50s, the when men were still men, and I wonder what star would be the most out of place today. I mean, John Wayne would probably have difficulty operating in today's world.
That walk doesn't translate to the 20th, 21st
Well, not just that, but his political views, his whole thing. He just didn't like anybody that wasn't tall and thin and American.
That would describe Kid Rock. You think you get along with Kid Rock? John Wayne and Kid Rock being buddies?
Yeah, strangely, I think those two guys would get along.
Shooting up a bar?
Yeah, shooting up your Miller Lights. What is it? No, not was it Miller Light? No, not Miller Light. Bud Light.
Oh, I
because they
got
put a
you.
transvestite on the can.
No beer for you. No donut for you. No soup for you.
Could you just imagine? I mean, there's some stars that just would. I mean, it wouldn't be able to function in today's world. You know, I mean, John Wayne immediately comes to mind, but you just think about how it would be if a guy like he came back to life and saw what was going on today.
Oh no, that would not work. He'd be a Trumpster for sure.
Oh my God, he'd be at that. Speaking about our boy Trump, have you heard his latest antic?
What's he done? Did he kill somebody on Fifth Avenue?
Well, he's trying. He's definitely trying. I guess he gave out what he told people was Obama's address on his social media.
In Chicago?
I don't know if it was in Chicago or in D.C. So anyway, sure enough, they catch one of these idiots, one of his cult people, living in a van and live streaming from the van.
That way they'll never find me.
Who's yeah, they'll never find you like that. Who's now um has been arrested for threatening the life of the ex-president. That he was going to
President,
bomb him
but
because
that other president told me to kill the president.
he got the information from Trump.
Does that make him an accessory?
Wouldn't it be wonderful? There's some hurt birds in this world, man. There's some hurt people.
There's some people who don't know what a push button transmission is, and they never will know.
They'll never. Well, no, because they're coming back. I mean,
No,
oh yeah. There's several cars out there now with push button transmissions.
I didn't know that.
I mean, not in the traditional way you see it here, but not in this way. But there are several cars that have, you know, either on the dashboard or on the console, you push the button to make the car go.
I always wondered how the buttons that are displayed behind you worked. How can a simple button change the gear and the structure and the lineup and the teeth and the motion of the transmission?
Well, in these particular units that's behind me, it
Chrysler.
it it just pushed to a rod in the linkage, and the linkage, and when you pushed it, it just moved the linkage. Same thing as you do when you pull the lever down.
Hmm. Sounds
So
deceptively simple.
yeah, it was basically the same. It was basically a mechanical thing that changed the gear that the transmission was in when you pushed it. And then on most of these cars, to put it in park, you slid um, another gear over, and that engaged the lock gear for the park. So it was a fancy gimmick. I mean, both accomplished the same thing, but this was more futuristic. I'm gonna hit the button.
Those came
Now,
out. Those came out when we first started putting two headlights on each side in the late 50s, early 60s.
yeah, I think the first push buttons were Plymouth had them. I think in '55 or '54, might have been DeSoto actually that had them first.
Hernando de Soto, discoverer, adventurer.
Of the Plymouth, actually, he was the guy who discovered the Plymouth, and then they stopped making DeSotos because the Plymouth did so good.
The Plymouth,
I never understood quite why they needed a Dodge and a Plymouth and a DeSoto.
and an Imperial.
Well, Imperial, I could understand because they were trying to build a luxury car with an
And
Imperial.
they said, but if it's going to be luxury, it's got to be bigger than the Dodge and the Plymouth, and they're already as big as we can make them.
Yeah, some of them Imperials, man, had huge uh, deck lids and
Yeah.
hoods. I mean, those some of those deck lids had more steel in them than you get in a regular car now.
You take the hood off an Imperial, you can make two Priuses.
Or you can put it over somebody's head for a shelter. Make a hell of a lean-to out of a hood for an Imperial.
Well, that would be nice. Cars that have been made into convenience apartments. You get a Mustang apartment, a DeSoto department, a Bentley department. I like that.
Well, I mean, you think about it. The cars in those days were big enough that you could lay two people across the seat in the back seat.
That was the idea, I thought.
I think that was. I think that's how many of us got here. Uh, and with room to move your legs around a little bit, stretch your legs, as they say.
Did you? I remember my grandfather always bought Packards. He was a whiz at buying a great used Packard on the used car market. He looked for them all the time, and he would trade one in and get another one. And he had two, one for his wife, one my grandmother, one for himself. And the Packards, the Packard Patrician, I think in 1959, black Packard Patrician, had feet rests in the back seat. You sit in the back seat and you stretch out, and your feet have a rest there, a block, this big.
Those were great cars, Packards. I have actually been to the Packard Museum in
Racine, Wisconsin.
no, it's in Indiana, actually. Somewhere near Bloomington, Indiana.
That's where Biff Jiggerman was born, but now he never leaves Kansas City.
Yeah, well, there's no reason to leave.
He just won't do it. He won't go beyond the city limits.
Why would you leave?
And it's not the barbecue. It's just there's going to be some kind of a game, and he doesn't want to miss it.
Well, that's it. I mean, Biff. Well, first of all, if Biff isn't there for roll call at the home in the morning, people do start to raise an eyebrow or three.
They raise an eyebrow and they say, "How big is the back seat where he's staying tonight?"
Exactly.
Did you lose any of your favorite? Did you lose any of your favorite sportscasters in the ESPN house cleaning?
Wow, that was
a big one.
That was a huge one, man. I think Matt Hasselbeck got bounced.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Keyshawn Johnson got blown out, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Max Kellerman got bounced. He was always the guy. I never understood what he was doing in radio anyway.
Yeah, I didn't quite get him either. There's a couple of people that I don't get these days. Max Kellerman. I mean, who is he? What did he do? He's not wasn't a great interviewer.
He wasn't a great writer. He was a self promoter, I think.
Yeah.
Susie Colbert, I'm gonna miss. I thought she was good.
They bounced Susie, huh?
Yep. After 28 years.
Who's Joe Namath gonna kiss now?
Kid Rock. Or John Wayne, depending on who's on his side of the stage.
I don't want to see that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Well, the thing is I guess, at some point you say, how important is the star, or what you perceive as the star, to their presentation?
Well, their presentation is what bothers me. I like to turn the sound down, not off, just down, and I'd much rather enjoy the top 10. I don't need someone going, whoa, screaming, yelling, making insane, ridiculous remarks. They're not funny. They're not clever. They're not poignant. And
did Berman get cut?
No.
I mean, he was almost a non-factor anyway, right?
Not on the list. I guess he's got some retirement payment coming to him. Who knows?
Yeah, him and tell me that they got rid of Scott Van Pelt.
Nope.
That's a dude I don't get.
What was the guy that just resigned? He retired. He was out in L.A. and he was the yeller. His thing was yelling bartender. He did it every damn night. I don't know what it was all about.
Not Steve Levy, no.
No, I like Steve Levy.
Not Jim Rome. I don't think he was at ESPN anymore, was he?
No, he's CBS Radio now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I haven't watched ESPN for more than a couple of minutes in years.
Really? What do you do to get your scores sometimes? You just use the internet.
I go on my phone,
Yep.
and I don't have to put up with you know, the pithy remarks that they seem to come up with. Um,
They're mistaking false energy for entertainment.
well, they've tried to. You know, there hasn't been. I mean, you know, they early on in their existence, they saw what worked for Chris Berman, and
Right.
they all tried to imitate it in some shape, manner, or form.
Ain't gonna work.
And what they figured out is that nobody could do it but him.
Right.
And then his act eventually got tired,
Right.
and so many of them got tired. Um, I don't know. I just, yeah. I mean, life without ESPN is okay. I mean, you know, if there's a major sports story going on, I want some more background into it. I'll tune in, but be honest with you, man, they don't give me a lot anymore, and certainly nothing that I can't get off the internet in a quarter of the time it takes them to give it to me.
Without all the shtick.
Yeah, and maybe it's when you see a lot of the people inside ESPN and you kind of get what they're a little bit about. You know, it's all just mirrors. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. The most genuine guy at ESPN to me was always John Clayton, and
Ah,
since he's
Johnny.
gone, you know, and hey, they fired him anyway. So
Yeah, he could write. That made him expendable.
yeah, he could actually and actually gave you some facts.
And they call him the professor, but we don't need a professor. We'll just make up something till the score gets here.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. But you know, Clayton was I mean just the best. He knew what he was talking about. He knew his stuff. He didn't try to be palsy walsy with players and everything. See, that's what it is. ESPN became a club that you knew you could never be a part of. You might let you in for a minute or something, but you know they're behind the ropes. You're not getting behind the ropes. But the trick was to make you think that you could get behind the ropes.
Hmm. And have a Ballantine beer.
Or a
Well,
Rheingold.
I saw in the headline today on CNN that yesterday, the 4th of July, was the hottest day ever. And it was only in the 80s here, so it must have been warmer than that where you are.
Um, it was pleasant yesterday. I
Not
thought it was real.
in not in Texas.
No. Um, and what's it, 116 in Fresno?
I hope so. Remember, it was 116 in Las Vegas when we were there one time and we were driving around in our rental car with the top down, and it was like driving behind a diesel bus everywhere you went. There was no bus, there was no diesel, there wasn't even a car in front of us, but just the air from Vegas hitting us in the convertible Mustang was like driving behind something.
Vegas gets Vegas gets warm, man. Vegas gets yeah, it was something ridiculous there yesterday, like 112, I think, or something.
Hey,
Um,
what's happening in southern Washington? The whole state's on fire. The tunnel fire.
yes, there seems to be a number of fires going on in Washington again. Uh,
There's so much to
most of
burn.
them seem to be down in the southern part of the state. Um, it's really kind of weird down there right now. because you have mudslides in Rainier Park, where the mountain is, and then you have fires. So to some, I don't know. I mean, this state seems to encapsulate every kind of natural disaster you can have.
Is the air clear in Seattle?
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. Yeah, we haven't been getting the fires. The BC fires have kind of calmed down. So we haven't been getting the smoke and everything. Pittsburgh looks like it's 1953 back there.
You know what they need? They need a mass shooting. Have they had one this week?
No, they saved that for Philadelphia.
Can they? Well, good point. They know how to do it, but
yeah, Philly knows how to do a mass shooting where
loosens up the response time when you have a mass shooting, gets people going to the incident in a hurry. Nothing they can do because nothing can be done. Texas rules on this one, as always.
Well,
what are we going to do about this? Ask the Texans. The Texans say nothing can be done. We're done.
We had to come up with a stat to justify the police. So now we have shooting response time. So now every shooting report we get, the police were there in 2 minutes and 31 seconds, or the police got there in 1 minute and 22 seconds, or the shooter was neutralized in 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Or like Uvalde, Texas, the police were on the grounds for 95 minutes and did nothing. How about that one?
Yeah, and that was 4 hours before they. You go in. No, you go in. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but I could just imagine. We saw the scene in the hall.
Yeah.
These were cops who definitely subscribed to the "they don't pay me enough money to go in there" theory.
That was pretty much their approach.
Yeah.
We're going in, but I ain't going in.
Yeah,
so if you ain't going in, I ain't going in.
Not my kid in there. And then and then they had the audacity to arrest the kids' parents outside trying to get into the school.
Well, it's like knocking someone down and telling them to put their hands behind their back. Try that sometime. Put your hands behind your back. Stop struggling. Stop. Oh, I got a hairspray. Got a pepper spray.
Take your knee out of my back, and maybe I'll put my hands behind me. Right now, you're stifling the running of my heart. I can't quite get. What do they do if the guy can't put his hands behind his back?
They break their arms. They'll get them back there.
They have. Today's Americans have caught up with me in size, and so, so the average American that you knock down is usually a big person.
Well, if you get 2 or 3 cops to sit on them until they're dead, that's one way to deal with that.
Once they're dead, their arms tend to move a little better, huh?
Until full, what do you call it? As the body stiffens after death.
Oh, rigor mortis. Yeah, until rigor mortis sets in. Then you have a little trouble putting.
Then it fights you every inch of the way.
Yeah, then you put it on. It's like a Three Stooges thing. You put it on back here. The other one flies out. You put it on back here. The other one flies out.
And every time the other one flies out, it hits Larry on the side of the head. Poor Larry.
Poor Larry got the raw deal in the whole thing, didn't he?
And he had the most distinctive hair.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you could make a case that Mo had pretty distinctive hair.
And Shemp, for that matter. Poor Shemp.
Yeah.
Was he a real stooge or was he just a stoogette?
I think he was I don't know. I always thought the Shemp was a substitute stooge, but he was more of a stooge than Joe DeRita or Joe Besser.
Yeah. God, yes. You nasty man.
Couldn't get away with playing that character today.
Nope, nope. That we're gonna have to come up with another byline for you, Joe. I'm sorry, but that's my line. Yeah, well, time moves on, and it's not applicable anymore. Go over there and hit Larry in the side of the head. You'll feel better.
He's okay with it.
But
Larry, how much
Shemp
two
had
and
his own
two?
thing. It wasn't boop, 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 boop. It was boop, 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 or words to that effect.
Yeah. Larry, what's 2 and 2? 81. All right, you're good. Go. What if they had a doctor on scene for concussion protocol at the Three Stooges?
Seems to me like one of them had to have a concussion sooner or later. Mo said spread out, bonk. Larry never said anything except, "Hey Mo,
Hey, Mo, look at this.
spread out, bonk."
Straight out.
But
Yeah,
you
Curly
think,
had all the best lines.
but you think that they would grow tired of each other. But they went. Three guys went everywhere together. You couldn't separate them. They were in every scene together. It wasn't like Larry's missing and Mo and Curly have to find him. Nothing like that.
No, hardly ever. They were the Three Stooges, and they were out there. Curly was, I guess, a sad case, though, right? I mean, I guess Curly was.
Well, you know what Curly was really fond of is animals. He rescued animals.
Yeah, and women too,
Strays.
I heard.
Strays, though. They had to be strays.
We put the women upstairs, the animals down here, and let Life magazine come over.
You're the guy, you're one of the Stooges. That's my boyfriend, one of the Stooges. You got to be kidding me. No, but I'm an actor. It's an act. Yeah. Boo, 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 boo.
It's always weird. What I always find weird is, because Shemp had an acting career apart from the Stooges before he joined up with the Stooges. It's always weird when you see him in a movie because you're
Jim
always
Howard.
looking for Mo and Larry.
They got to be coming somewhere.
They're going to be coming around that corner any minute.
Can you think of a movie Shemp was in that I should see?
He was in a couple of
Guess I
interesting.
better do IMDb on that one.
Yeah, I'd have to look at IMDb and see what he was in. But there's I think he was in at least 2 or 3 gangster movies.
That makes good sense. Black suit, black hat, black car.
Yeah, he played like one of the. He usually played an idiot.
Of course.
Uh,
The guy who's given one job and can't do it.
yeah. Trying to see now. Let's see.
Did he act under the name Shemp Howard?
Yeah, he acted under Shemp Howard. Uh, I'm looking here to see.
Their poor mother. Can you imagine? You had a number
Oh
of children,
yeah.
and Mo and Shemp are your children.
It's weird because he didn't die much past Curly. I mean,
It was a
Shemp
curse.
died in 55. Curly died in what, 52?
It was a curse. The curse of the third stooge.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find one that he did that's,
No.
uh, let's see. He was in the Blondies. Um, the Gentleman Misbehaves. Strange Affair.
Strange as fair. Oh
Strange
dear.
Affair.
Oh, same
Uh,
thing.
he was in the movie Pittsburgh, which I've never seen. But I know there was one.
Time isn't it time to remake Pittsburgh? Don't you think? Who's got the rights? An RKO picture. Okay, well, nobody has the rights. Quickly, a remake of Pittsburgh, starring Shem
He,
Howard.
oddly enough, he was in um, a couple of Abbott and Costello movies.
Really, he must have played a
He was in
villain.
Buck Privates, and he was in Abbott and Costello in the Navy, which actually might be my favorite. Um, let's see, he was in the Bank Dick.
With W.C. Fields.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, so he was in. I mean, I'm trying to think of there's a movie that he was in, and I saw him, and I was very surprised to see him, and I just can't.
Gone with the Wind. Did he play a Confederate soldier? Probably
No,
not.
that was George Reeves. Played one of the Tarleton brothers.
He came to court the girls, right?
Came to court the girls. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I wrote a song that I'm trying to work on today, based on one of your most famous lines about the music business. It's called "Every Jukebox in Queens." Been
uh,
making them hit records since I was 17. Now I'm on every jukebox in Queens.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, I can't. Have yeah, but there was one movie I was surprised in seeing that I saw him. He plays a guy named Smokey Mo in a short in 1935.
We all
And
saw
here's
that.
one that you have to love: Convention Girl. I can only wonder what that's about.
Oh dear me, the Sarah Palin story.
Where is Sarah Palin these days?
She's getting the help she needs to get her through this tumultuous time. She'll be an ESPN anchor. You wait and see.
Well, she was a sports anchor, wasn't she, for a while? Up at some station. I think she did weather and then she did sports
If that's the case, I didn't know about it.
at some station in Alaska.
Let's give out her home address. Barack Obama can drive by.
You know, if Trump was smart, he'd pick her for his next running mate.
Yeah, she's trouble though. It's going to be like the boss's daughter. No, she can't take direction.
There's
And,
this,
and, and Trump doesn't give direction, so maybe they would be good.
yeah, they
Good
might work
move.
out well together. There was this famous great billboard in New York. There's this company actually. I think it's Manhattan Self Storage, and they always put up these weird billboards. You know, stop praying to God for a parking space. He's too busy. You know, stuff like that.
Right.
And they have a billboard or had a billboard at the entrance to the Holland Tunnel. And
Enter.
the billboard says, "Remember when Sarah Palin was scary?" Oh my God! What did we see? Anything interesting politically over the weekend? Besides, I mean, it was 4th of July, so everybody seemed to keep their mouth shut and go home, except for Trump.
Well, all the candidates, of which there are 30 Republicans, each one more vicious and preposterous than the next, trying to get someone to pay attention to them. I'm vicious too. I'm also a jerk. I'm also mean. I'm also mean spirited, and I'm more vicious and mean spirited than he is, and always will be. Always have been. And then Mike Pence is just a reverend disc jockey.
Oh, how boring would the United States be if he were the president?
Wait till you get to some of the ideas his evangelical friends have. That won't be boring.
Oh no,
That's
no,
revolutionary.
yeah. What was that revolution in 1979?
Because I want to bring back the worship of the great god Baal. Some people pronounce it Baal because it's Baal. But he got shortchanged, and as a god goes, I think that we should. I mean, was a golden bull with a disc between his horns. Come on, that's the kind of thing we can market.
You know,
The
the
great.
strange things is, Mikey, that there's people that actually believe in these people.
Oh yeah,
There's people that think that they're on the great road. You know, there's so many people that were empowered by the destruction of Roe versus Wade that they are now empowered by this. They think that the whole world is going conservative.
the Lord is with them.
And I always like to look back at previous things that happened in different countries. And you know, it almost reminds me of that of the Islamic Revolution of 1979. Remember when they bombed movie theaters because they didn't like what they were playing, and they cut people's heads off because they didn't like what they were saying?
And they destroyed art because art is an affront to the prophet.
Right.
By the way,
Right.
so are trees. I've never quite figured that one out. But the Wasabis were very proud when they cut down the last tree in Saudi Arabia because it was, by the fact that it was an offering and an expression of nature, an affront to the prophet. Down with that tree. Down with all trees.
It does make you scratch your head, man.
That's an affront to the prophet.
Or maybe they ought to be a non-profit organization.
That too is an affront to the prophet.
I know I'll probably have two guys looking to get me for.
One of them will undoubtedly be an affront to the prophet.
Oh man.
As prophets go, Muhammad was affronted by just about everything. Breakfast, that's an affront.
Well,
Diamond
you know
Lane on the
what?
freeway, that's an affront.
Luckily, we'll all be saved by the All-Star game. The All-Star game is coming next week, and
Well, I hope a Mariner starts and goes 8 innings and can't pitch for the rest of the year.
that's probably what will happen. I mean, the Mariners have one representative. I mean, you think about how bad that is.
Is it the pitcher Gilbert or who?
Uh, um, the guy that came over from the Reds last year. I'm blanking on his name. But
Stevie Buscemi.
yeah, Steve Buscemi. I think he's starting for the Mariners. What a sad it's even hard to say. I mean, to compare the All-Star game now. You know how much a ticket is to the All-Star game?
No.
$600 for the cheap seat.
It was probably one of the worst games I ever took my dad to, but we went to the All-Star game, the Candlestick, and it was like all All-Star games, uneventful, and the most fun is watching the introductions, seeing all the players. And I remember when it was just exciting because there wasn't a lot of television when we were growing up. Just exciting to see all the guys in their different uniforms standing together.
Yeah. Well, see, they even took that away.
Oh yeah, you got to wear another uniform.
You have to wear.
You
know, I've gotten 6 press releases about the Tigers. The Tigers. The All-Star uniforms. They're made out of a new fiber that they discovered in the jungles of Klopstokia.
What happened to Spolpakia? They got jungles, don't they?
Next door, but they don't have.
There's got to be a little
fibers are illegal in Spolpakia.
Good point. Well, I can't think of everything.
Yeah.
That'd have been a good earning day for them, but
yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't do it for me anymore, man. And I hate to say that. You know, it's really. I don't know why I've had so much trouble getting into baseball this year. I think part of it is the whole pitch clock business. I think part of it is seeing things happen that you know is not right on a baseball field, like the guy who gets a strikeout when he doesn't throw a pitch because the guy took too long to get back in the box.
Yes.
I mean, What the hell is that? What? Because somebody's got to hit the freeway before 11 o'clock at night?
Gotta go. Gotta go. Let's go.
I'm sorry. It just, and then again, the price of All-Star tickets. Um, last time the All-Stars were here in 2001, it was exciting. The team was doing good, and the the whole thing was very exciting. Now it's not an exciting ball club. It's they're ginning it up with fireworks and this and that. I don't know. It just doesn't seem, and I feel bad because Michael, I went to 100 All Star games, man. I mean, I've been to All Star games all over the country, and I think part of it is the cool events are closed off to the regular people now.
The home run derby and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to pay $100 for a ticket to go watch.
Here's an idea. Here's an idea for
batting
baseball.
Practice.
The NBA's All-Star game is turned into just a scoring feat. They don't play defense. So let's try that with baseball. Ground ball to short. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah.
That's a base hit. I'm going to stretch it into a double. Oh, you are, because there's no throw from left. Okay, it's a double.
Yeah, nobody really wants to. Yeah.
All ground balls can be doubles.
I liked it a lot better when the American League didn't like the National League.
Didn't like them, didn't know who they were, never heard of them.
And they came out to beat the crap out of them every year.
Which is pretty much the way it's gone the last 16 years. What's the numbers lately? It's all American League, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it has been for the last few years.
Yeah.
But now there's no difference in how they play.
Hey, Vinnie, what are you driving this week?
What am I driving? I'm driving a Toyota Crown.
A Crown? What's that?
A Crown. It's a big Toyota. It replaces the Avalon in the Toyota lineup. It's a very big, very luxurious car.
Like a Crown Victoria.
No, Toyota, they've had the Crown all along. I mean, they imported it here for a couple of years in the early 70s, and then they stopped importing it.
I don't remember.
And now they've brought it back, and it's actually a very nice looking, very fancy car. It's almost $60,000, and it begs the question: why would you buy a Lexus if you can buy a Toyota?
That's the question they want you to ask.
Exactly. So I like the car a lot. It'll be a favorable review. It's comfortable. It's quick. It's a hybrid. I think it's a great family car, man. If you're still into cars and you're one of those people that say, "What do I need a freaking SUV for?" This is a car that's worth looking at. So
Christian and I power watched Yellowstone through the weekend because they had all 5 seasons on. And I had this different reaction to it the second time through. First time through, I was all on the Dutton side. Yeah, Kevin Costner, John Dutton, the monster rancher with his crazy murderous daughter and his murderous son, and the other kid who kills people. And everybody in these families is a murderer. And the second time through, I got to the reaction of saying, these people are just killers. I know it's all about save Montana, take it back. We're gonna keep it from changing in the next 100 years, but they did it by killing.
We'll kill everybody who doesn't agree with us.
That's exactly what they did.
Sound familiar? You don't agree with us? Oh. There's only so many times you can release the John Gotti movie. Now you have to come up with different people to play the parts.
John Gotti, who would play that? Shemp Howard.
I think he'd make he'd be more of a Sammy the Bull.
He's the driver. The comic relief.
He's more a Sammy the Bull guy. All right, Mikey, I'm going to go out and try to change the world today.
We'll put out that fire, drive by Obama's house, What else
People
can
are
you do
just
here?
going freaking wacky, man. What's wrong with people?
It might be the heat.
Yeah, it must be something, man. Well, I guess if you're live streaming from a van for 20 hours a day,
I got a hot spot over here.
you have some problems. All right, Mikey. Listen, I will see you Friday for a big fractious freaky Friday.
Okay, great. My apologies to you and to the listeners and viewers on Monday. I couldn't make the call. Sorry.
That's okay. We were thinking about you. I wasn't thinking about you, to tell you the truth. I was
I
like
was thinking about you. I'm saying Vinny's going to never let me forget this.
out of the house.
All right, take some
All right, I'll
Manischewitz
see you,
with you.
and we'll be on time on Friday, and we'll be here, and we'll be present and cognizant. Holiday weeks are always weird for us.
The next show won't be about beer because this show was half about beer, and we can't do another full show about beer because we already did a half show about beer.
Of course, we're going to want to drink, and we're trying not to do that these days.
Sing the ham song. Sam's the sky blue water. Ham's the beer refreshing. Ham's the beer refreshing. I'm on every jukebox in Queens. Yeah.
My final question is, why doesn't Michael McDonald talk like he sings?
He's got a strange voice. But when you think, we've heard it so much with the Doobies and with Steely Dan and with his solo work that we sort of take it for granted. But he's almost a choir boy. He's got an extraordinarily high range, and it's got a soft O sort of sing about it. When he sings, it's like a lot of people call him mush mouth, but he's got some notes to hit.
Oh yeah, No, I listened to a show that he did over the weekend, and he definitely overemphasizes some notes. But he talks like normal. He's like Gomer Pyle.
He's a totally normal person, right? Yeah.
Remember Gomer Pyle? He used to talk one way and sing another way.
He had an operatic voice and a hayseed delivery.
Well, I don't know if I'd go as far as saying Michael McDonald had a hayseed delivery, but it's definitely got the Midwestern kind of non-accent to it.
Just thinking about all the bands he's been in, pretty crazy. Not that many people sang for Steely Dan and for the Doobies and for their own work. And so anyway, try singing harmony with him sometime. It's impossible to keep up. No,
that's okay. You can't understand the words.
They're meant to be mysterious, like Shemp Howard.
Exactly. Peace, love, and Manischewitz, baby. I'll see you on Friday. Bye-bye.